To Dr. Arsenault, how did he become involved in the project, and his impression of the famous 1975 match against Jimmy Connors, which I think every black person of a certain age remembers where they were when he did that.
Well, it's funny, after he beat Connors, which is the biggest upset in Wimbledon history, the press asked him, well, this has got to be the greatest moment of your career. And he said, well, not really. It meant more to me to win Davis Cup. And I think it affirmed his citizenship, that he was the first black to play Davis Cup. And as he said, I'd much rather hear them say advantage USA rather than advantage Ashe. And so they kind of were puzzled by that. But he and Connors were like oil and water. His wife Jeannie told me that that was the only person that she knew of in their whole marriage that Arthur just didn't like. It's funny because he did like McEnroe, even though McEnroe drove him crazy when he was the captain of the Davis Cup and McEnroe was throwing his racket and screaming and being super brat. In fact, he once said in one of his autobiographies, he said, you know, I really respect John's sense of competitiveness. I know he's crazy half the time, but he's crazy because he cares too much. And he said, you know, I would love to beat John McEnroe for 24 hours at Wimbledon and throw my racket and swear and scream and get it all out and vent. And when I interviewed McEnroe, he said, yeah, you know, we had this incredible relationship. He said, I was such a jerk in those days. And I drove Arthur crazy, but I admired him so much. And today, McEnroe is one of the biggest supporters of the Arthur Ashe Foundation for the Defeat of AIDS. Whenever Jeannie Ashe needs him, he's always there, always there. And there's so many of his friends. When I interviewed Cliff Drysdale, it was in the Waldorf Astoria, of all places, in this, this incredible lobby, and I haven't even started the interview yet, and all of a sudden I look over and Cliff Drysdale just is sobbing. He's sobbing, and he says, I'm so sorry. You know, yesterday ESPN asked me to do an interview on camera for a documentary, and I had to turn him down. I just couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't keep my composure. And he said, you know, Arthur, he wasn't just a friend. He was the greatest person that I met in my lifetime. I only wish I could have been more like him. You know, he was such a role model for me, and it's really changed my life. And I got that from half a dozen of the friends who I always had to stop while they would control their tears. You know, this is a man who's been dead for 25 years, and they're still thinking, oh my God, what a different world it might be in the world of sports in the United States if you had someone like Arthur Ashe to speak out. And of course, the Connors thing was, you know, nobody thought he had a chance. That was the first year that bookies were allowed on the grounds at Wimbledon, and the odds were just ridiculous. And the only person that I know of who made money, who bet on Ashe, was Bill Reardon, Jimmy Connors' manager. Such a scoundrel, and he made thousands of dollars. And Connors didn't find out till years later that he bet on Arthur. And amazingly, they had this strategy of, you know, kind of jinking and hitting these soft shots, but Arthur didn't think he really was going to win. So it's midnight, the day before he's supposed to play Connors, this unbeatable person. He goes to the Playboy Club and gambles and with his friends till 2 o'clock in the morning. And so even with that, it was the greatest victory of his career.
And Ray, I'd like to end this on this note, and this question for you, because obviously you spent many years researching this book. And what impact did Arthur's life story have on you personally?
Well, I have to report, sadly, that it did not help my backhand or my mediocre tennis. You know, as I think you said, it's my 9th book. I've written books on freedom riders and Marian Anderson and lots of heroic people. But I don't think, other than maybe John Lewis, who I wrote a great deal about in the Freedom Riders book, he set an almost impossible standard, you know, of character, and I just I think I try as best I can to live up to at least some of the things that he believed in. And I actually stopped work on the book for almost a year in the middle of it. Both my parents had just died. I was feeling older and much more mortal myself. And I thought, do I really need this? I know this is not going to have a happy ending. He's going to die of AIDS at 49, leaving this precious little girl that they just adopted. And I thought, I should just go play tennis and rather write about it. And it took me 10, 11 months to think, you know, God, if Arthur could do what he did in his lifetime against all those odds, then I just had to follow through and finish the book. It took me another 5 years, and it affected my life and my family's life. I often say this was written in my wife Kathy's blood. You write a book like this, you go to bed thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it. They sort of take over your life, but I just feel very fortunate, really, that I was able to have this time with him, and it's the thing I think I treasure most of my whole career, really. And so I really thank him and for being the person he was.
And thank you, Dr. Arsenault, for writing this book, and thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.